The initial strike. Captain James Cooper stood on the bridge of the Starship Odyssey, his heart heavy with the sight before him. The advanced alien city of the peaceful Aryans was in flames, under brutal attack by the merciless Zorgans. The crew watched in horror as the Zorgans slaughtered Aryans without mercy, their plasma beams tearing through buildings and bodies alike. "Captain, the Prime Directive prohibits us from interfering," Lieutenant Hayes said, his voice shaking. Cooper's jaw clenched. The Prime Directive was clear, but he could not stand by and watch this genocide. "Directive be damned," he growled. All batteries, open fire. The Odyssey's superior weaponry lit up the sky, plasma beams and quantum torpedoes raining down on the Zorgans. Within minutes, the alien invaders were retreating, their ships fleeing back into space. The crew erupted in cheers, tears of relief and triumph streaming down their faces. They had saved countless lives, but Cooper knew the consequences of their actions would be severe. In the depths of Zorgan space, a war fleet was assembling, and Earth was now their target. The Federation Council. Captain Cooper shifted uncomfortably in his seat as the Federation Council argued back and forth. The grand marbled chamber echoed with shouts from representatives of various species, each with their own opinion on the Odyssey's intervention. Captain Cooper's actions were a violation of our most sacred law. Admiral Victor Ivanov bellowed, his face red with anger. He must be court-martialed for his insubordination. A slender, blue-skinned councilwoman stood up in response. "Captain Cooper is a hero. He saved countless lives and showed the galaxy that we will not stand idly by in the face of genocide." The debate raged on for hours, with no clear resolution in sight. Suddenly, a holographic screen flickered to life at the center of the chamber, displaying the face of the Zorgan commander. "People of Earth," the commander growled, baring sharp teeth. "You have interfered in the affairs of the Zorgan Empire. For this, you will pay with your lives. We declare war on your pitiful federation. Prepare for extermination." Chaos erupted once more in the council chamber. As the council members bickered, a tall, lean figure with pale skin and piercing eyes stepped forward. "I may have a solution," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "Who are you?" demanded Admiral Ivanov. "My name is Zoran," the man replied. "I am a defector from the Zorgan Empire. I have information that can help you defeat them." The defector's plan. Admiral Ivanov's eyes narrowed. "Why should we trust you?" Zoran smiled. "Because I know of a secret weapon that can counter the Zorgan technology. But I will only share this information if you grant me asylum and protection." The council members looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Finally, Admiral Ivanov spoke. "Very well, Zoran. We will hear what you have to say. But first, we must ensure your safety." He turned to Captain Cooper. "Captain, you are hereby tasked with escorting Zoran to a secure facility on Earth. Protect him with your life." Cooper nodded, his jaw set with determination. He knew this mission was crucial to the survival of the Federation. As they boarded a shuttle to leave the council chamber, Cooper couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about Zoran. The defector seemed too calm, too sure of himself. The shuttle launched into space, heading towards Earth. Cooper knew the fate of the galaxy rested on his shoulders. He just hoped he was up to the task. The Zorgan assault. The Zorgan fleet materialized in Earth's orbit without warning, their angular, obsidian warships blotting out the sun. Panic erupted on the surface as plasma bolts rained down, causing buildings to crumble and fires to rage. The Federation's defenses, caught completely off guard, crumpled under the onslaught. Cooper watched the destruction unfold on the Odyssey's view screen, his heart sinking with every explosion. "We have to do something," he said, his voice tight with anger and desperation. "We can't just sit here and watch our home burn." Lieutenant Zara Makova, the ship's tactical officer, shook her head. "There are too many of them. We'll be blown out of the sky before we can even get close." Cooper slammed his fist on the armrest of his chair. "I'm not going to let those bastards win. Not after everything we've been through." He turned to Commander Jack Reeves, his best friend and first officer. "Jack, I have an idea. It's a long shot, but it might just work." "I'm listening," Reeves said, leaning in. "We need to take out their flagship," Cooper explained. "Cut off the head of the snake. If we can disable their weapons systems, it might buy us enough time to evacuate as many people as possible." Reeves nodded slowly. "It's risky, but it's better than doing nothing. Let's do this." The infiltration. They assembled a team of their best fighters and set off in a cloaked shuttle. Cooper's heart raced as they approached the Zorgan flagship, its massive hull looming before them like a mountain of metal. They managed to slip aboard undetected, creeping through dimly lit corridors with weapons drawn. Cooper led the way, his senses on high alert for any sign of the enemy. They were just rounding a corner when all hell broke loose. A group of Zorgan soldiers appeared from a side passage, their plasma rifles already firing. Cooper and his team dove for cover, returning fire as best they could. In the chaos of the firefight, Cooper saw Reeves go down, a searing hole burned through his chest. He screamed his friend's name, but there was no response. Reeves was gone. Rage and grief surged through Cooper like a tidal wave. He pushed forward, heedless of the danger, firing his weapon with reckless abandon. The rest of the team followed, caught up in his desperate charge. Somehow, miraculously, they made it to the weapons control room. They planted the charges and fought their way back to the shuttle, leaving a trail of Zorgan bodies in their wake. As they sped away from the flagship, Cooper watched in grim satisfaction as a series of explosions ripped through its hull. The mighty vessel listed to one side, belching flames and debris. But even as the Odyssey crew celebrated their victory, Cooper felt hollow inside. The image of Reeves's lifeless body was seared into his mind, a wound that would never fully heal. The counterattack. In the days that followed, Cooper threw himself into the fight with a newfound intensity. He pushed his crew harder than ever before, taking on riskier and riskier missions. Some whispered that he had a death wish, that losing Reeves had unhinged him. But Cooper didn't care. All that mattered was making the Zorgan pay. Back on Earth, Admiral Ivanov confronted Zoran in his laboratory. The Zorgan defector had been working non-stop on his supposed secret weapon, but Ivanov's suspicions had only grown with each passing day. "I know what you really are," Ivanov said, his hand hovering over his sidearm. "A double agent sent to sabotage us from within." Zoran looked up from his work, a slight smile on his face. "Very astute, Admiral, but not quite the whole truth." He tapped a command into his console, and a hidden door slid open in the wall. Inside was a room filled with Zorgan technology, weapons, communication devices, even a small spacecraft. "I am a member of the Zorgan resistance," Zoran said. "We have been fighting against the Emperor's tyranny for decades, seeking to restore our people to a path of peace." Ivanov's eyes narrowed. "And your secret weapon?" "A means to that end," Zoran replied. "A computer virus designed to infiltrate the Zorgan command network and disable their ships and weapons. With one strike, we could cripple their entire war machine." Ivanov considered this for a long moment. It was a risky gambit, trusting a Zorgan rebel, but what choice did they have? The Federation was losing this war, and they needed a miracle. "Show me," Ivanov said at last, "and then we will discuss how to proceed." The final battle. They worked through the night, poring over schematics and running simulations. It was a daring plan, one that could easily backfire if anything went wrong. But it was also their best shot at ending this war once and for all. On the front lines, the battle raged on. The Odyssey shuddered under the impact of Zorgan plasma fire, its shields barely holding on. On the bridge, Cooper gripped the armrests of his chair, his knuckles white. "Hard to port," he shouted. "Fire all batteries." The ship swerved and unleashed a barrage of quantum torpedoes, tearing through the enemy formation. But there were too many of them, an endless swarm of Zorgan fighters and battle cruisers. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks, and crew members cried out as they were flung across the deck. Cooper knew they couldn't take much more of this. The Odyssey was tough, but even she had her limits. "Sir," Lieutenant Makova called out, "incoming transmission from Admiral Ivanov. He says they have a plan." Cooper listened as Ivanov outlined the scheme he and Zoran had concocted. It was audacious, even by Cooper's standards, but it might just be crazy enough to work. "All right," Cooper said. "Let's do this, but I'm going to need every ship we've got to buy us some time." He opened a channel to the rest of the fleet, his voice ringing out across the void. "This is Captain James Cooper of the Odyssey. I know we're hurting. I know we're outnumbered. But today we have a chance to end this war once and for all." He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "All ships, form up on me. We're going to punch a hole straight through the Zorgan line and give the Admiral his shot. And if we don't make it out, it's been an honor serving with each and every one of you." As the fleet formed up around the Odyssey, Cooper felt a sense of grim determination settle over him. One way or another, this ended today. Even if it meant sacrificing himself and his ship, he would make sure that humanity survived. "All right, people," he said. "Let's give them hell." The formation surged forward, quantum torpedoes and plasma beams filling the void as they clashed with the Zorgan armada in a titanic battle for the fate of the galaxy. Explosions bloomed like fiery flowers, and ships on both sides were torn apart in the maelstrom. At the center of it all, the Odyssey pushed through, its hull scorched and battered but still unbroken. Cooper gripped the arms of his chair, his eyes fixed on the view screen as they closed in on the Zorgan flagship. "Ready the viral payload," he ordered, "and prepare to go to warp on my mark." But as they approached, the flagship unleashed a barrage of fire unlike anything they had seen before. The Odyssey shook like a leaf in a hurricane, consoles exploding and crew members crying out as they were hurled to the deck. Cooper knew they wouldn't make it. The ship was coming apart around him, and the flagship was still out of range. There was only one thing left to do. He hit the intercom. "All hands. This is the captain. Abandon ship. I repeat, all hands. Abandon ship." He watched on the view screen as escape pods jettisoned from the stricken vessel, carrying his crew to safety. But he remained in his chair, his hand hovering over the warp control. "Computer," he said, his voice calm despite the chaos around him. "Set a collision course for the Zorgan flagship. Maximum warp." As the computer chirped its acknowledgement, Cooper closed his eyes. He thought of his crew, of the brave men and women he had served with for so long. He thought of Earth, the green and blue jewel he called home. And he thought of the countless lives that would be saved by his sacrifice. "Forgive me," he whispered, and then he hit the button. The Odyssey leaped forward, the warp engines screaming as they propelled the ship towards its final destination. On the flagship's bridge, Zorgan officers looked up in horror as the Federation vessel appeared on their view screen, growing larger by the second. They tried to evade, but it was too late. The Odyssey slammed into the flagship's hull at a sizable fraction of light speed, the impact releasing an energy blast that outshone the sun. The flagship crumpled like tinfoil, secondary explosions rippling through its structure as it tore itself apart. And at the heart of the inferno, the Odyssey vanished in a blaze of light, taking Captain James Cooper with it to a hero's grave. But even as the Federation fleet watched in stunned silence, a new hope rose from the ashes of their fallen comrade's sacrifice. For on every Zorgan ship, on every conquered world, Zoran's virus was spreading like wildfire. One by one, the Zorgan war machine ground to a halt, their ships drifting powerless and their weapons falling silent. Confusion turned to panic, and panic to despair, as the Zorgan forces realized the scale of their defeat. And on Earth, Admiral Ivanov and Zoran watched with a mix of triumph and sorrow, as the tide of the war turned at last. They had won, but the cost had been high. So many brave souls had given their lives to see this day. As the first hesitant cheers began to rise from the watching crowds, Ivanov turned to Zoran. "It's over," he said softly. "We've won." Zoran nodded, his eyes distant. "Yes, but the real work is just beginning. We must forge a new path, one of peace and understanding between our peoples. Only then will their sacrifices have meaning." Ivanov clasped the Zorgan rebel's shoulder. "Then let us begin. For Captain Cooper and for all the others who fought so bravely, let us build a galaxy worthy of their memory." And as the sun rose over a war-torn Earth, a new era dawned, one of hope, of healing, and of the indomitable spirit of all those who had dared to stand against the darkness, no matter the cost. A new beginning. The news of Captain Cooper's heroic sacrifice spread like wildfire throughout the Federation. Monuments were erected in his honor, and his story became a symbol of hope and resilience for all of humanity and its allies. Yet, while the people celebrated their newfound peace, the leaders of the Federation knew that maintaining this fragile tranquility would require constant vigilance and cooperation. Admiral Ivanov, now promoted to Supreme Commander of the Federation forces, worked tirelessly to strengthen the bonds between the various species. He formed a coalition council, bringing together representatives from every race that had suffered under the Zorgan threat. Together, they began the arduous task of rebuilding what had been destroyed. The Coalition Council. The Coalition Council convened for the first time in the newly constructed Unity Hall, a grand structure symbolizing the diverse yet united front of the Federation. Representatives from all corners of the galaxy filled the hall, their expressions a mix of hope, determination, and lingering sorrow. Admiral Ivanov took the podium, his voice steady and commanding. "We are here today, not just to rebuild, but to forge a new future, one where our differences are our strengths, and our unity is our shield against any threat that may come." The crowd erupted in applause, but the challenges ahead were daunting. Resources were scarce, and the scars of war ran deep. Trust had to be rebuilt, not just among the different species, but within each society as well. Zoran, now a respected member of the coalition, stood beside Ivanov. His presence was a reminder that even former enemies could become allies. He had proven his loyalty by helping to end the war, but he knew his people would have to work hard to earn the trust of the galaxy. "We must move forward together," Zoran said, his voice carrying a note of humility and resolve. "The mistakes of the past should guide us, but they should not define us. We have a chance to create something truly remarkable here." Rebuilding and renewal. Over the next few months, the coalition focused on rebuilding key infrastructures. Advanced technology from various civilizations was pooled together, creating innovations that had once seemed impossible. Earth, which had borne the brunt of the Zorgan assault, was transformed into a hub of technological and cultural exchange. Ariana, a young Aryan engineer whose family had been saved by the Odyssey, played a crucial role in these efforts. She spearheaded the development of new energy systems that combined human ingenuity with Aryan efficiency. Her tireless work and unyielding spirit became an inspiration to many. "We owe it to those who sacrificed their lives to ensure that their legacy lives on through progress and unity," Ariana often said, her eyes reflecting both the pain of loss and the fire of determination. A new threat looms. Just as the coalition began to find its footing, a new threat emerged on the horizon. Disturbing reports filtered in from the outskirts of the galaxy, rumors of a powerful new entity known only as the Revenant. These mysterious figures moved in the shadows, their motives unclear but their actions leaving devastation in their wake. Admiral Ivanov called an emergency session of the Coalition Council. The atmosphere was tense, a stark contrast to the optimism that had filled Unity Hall just weeks earlier. "We cannot let this new threat undo everything we've worked so hard to build," Ivanov said, his voice firm. "We must be proactive, seek out this enemy, and neutralize it before it gains a foothold." Zoran nodded in agreement. "The Revenant may be unlike any enemy we've faced before, but we have something they do not: unity. Together, we can overcome any challenge." The search begins. A coalition task force was formed, composed of the best and brightest from each species. Captain Maria Hernandez, a decorated officer who had served under Cooper, was appointed to lead the mission. Her reputation for bravery and strategic brilliance made her the perfect choice. "We will find the Revenant and stop them before they can pose a serious threat," Captain Hernandez declared. "We owe it to the memory of Captain Cooper and all those who gave their lives for our freedom." The task force set out on their journey, venturing into uncharted territories and following the faint trails left by the Revenant. Along the way, they encountered numerous challenges: hostile environments, remnants of Zorgan resistance, and internal conflicts within the coalition. Yet each obstacle only strengthened their resolve. They were driven by a common goal, united by the same spirit of determination that had seen them through the war against the Zorgans. Discovery and deception. After months of searching, the task force finally uncovered a lead. Deep within a nebula, they discovered a hidden base, the Revenant's stronghold. The base was heavily fortified, with advanced defenses that indicated a level of technology beyond anything they had seen. Captain Hernandez and her team approached with caution, devising a plan to infiltrate the base and gather intelligence. However, as they penetrated deeper, they realized that the Revenant had been expecting them. An ambush was sprung, and fierce combat ensued. Hernandez's team fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered and outgunned. In the chaos, they managed to secure critical data files, but at a great cost. Many brave soldiers fell, and the survivors barely escaped with their lives. Back on Earth, the data was analyzed, revealing shocking information. The Revenant were not a new enemy, but a remnant of the Zorgan Empire. Elite soldiers who had gone rogue after the fall of their emperor. Their goal was to destabilize the coalition and reclaim their lost power. Rallying the coalition. The revelation sent shockwaves through the coalition. Fear and uncertainty threatened to fracture the fragile unity they had worked so hard to build. Admiral Ivanov knew that decisive action was needed to prevent a descent into chaos. He addressed the Coalition Council once more, his voice carrying the weight of their shared history and the promise of their future. "We have faced the Zorgan before and emerged victorious. Now we face their remnants. Let us stand together, stronger than ever, and show the Revenant that we will not be broken." The council responded with unanimous support. Resources were pooled, and a new fleet was assembled, combining the might of all coalition species. Zoran and other former enemies joined the effort, their resolve to defend their new allies unwavering. The final showdown. The coalition fleet, now under the command of Admiral Ivanov and Captain Hernandez, moved out to confront the Revenant. The two leaders, along with Zoran and other key figures, devised a plan to lure the Revenant into a trap. The final battle took place in the same nebula where the Revenant had ambushed the task force. The coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace, their ships gleaming with the combined technology of a united galaxy. The Revenant, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. The ensuing battle was fierce and chaotic, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But the coalition's unity and advanced tactics began to turn the tide. In the heart of the battle, Captain Hernandez faced off against the leader of the Revenant, a formidable Zorgan warrior named Krell. Their duel was intense, a clash of strength and will. Hernandez fought with the spirit of every fallen comrade, every friend she had lost. In a final, desperate move, she managed to disable Krell's weapon and deliver a decisive blow. The Revenant leader fell, and with him, the last vestiges of the Zorgan threat crumbled.